When I was with Ronnie McDowell, we were playing in Jackson, Mississippi. Hank's playing the big Coliseum there. We're playing out on the stage outside. This fellow walks up and he's got long hair and he's watching us play, and he comes up to me after we play and said, "Man, you guys sound good. I work for Hank Jr. I'm his guitar tech. It's Bud Phillips." Said, "I'll give you guys some passes if y'all want to come watch the show." I said, "Yeah, great." So we went back and watched the show. I'm from the side of the stage, and it's amazing. I mean, I was in awe. I was overwhelmed. So that's the first night I've seen Hank the Plank, as we call it, thanks to Joe Bonamassa. He named the guitar. I remember talking to Animal backstage, and he was talking about the guitar, and he said, "Oh yeah, that's Hank's 58." And what I found out later, that Hank went to Gruen's and bought the 58 Burst. He bought a gold top, and he bought a dobro, and he was going to do a blues album. And I've actually got a picture of the 58 in the case at Gruen's, and there's another left-handed Les Paul that would end up going to Paul McCartney. So the 58 actually belonged to Ed King first. Ed King had it. And the best we could tell, it belonged to a gospel group, maybe possibly out of Ohio. There was a King's Crown, as you saw in the case, or as we'll see later. And we think maybe a gospel group had it, Ed got it, but then Ed already had Red Eye, so he sold it at Gruen's. And so the album comes out, and then by spring of 1990, things are really, Walk Softly kind of makes an impact. And we get this offer to do the Lone Wolf Tour with Hank. So the best I remember, our first date was spring of 90 in Florida. And then we're out with Hank for about 2.5 years after that. It was a blast. Some things I don't remember as well, because there was off to the side of the stage, and I'm telling on myself. Now, I am a good Christian. Well, I'm not a good Christian boy. I am a Christian boy, okay? But there was the Hank tank over there, and Jim Beam, and I hit that quite often. I'd fix me a drink, and I'd watch Hank every night, pretty much, and we'd go out and jam with him. He'd bring us out, and we'd do our thing. And loudest amplifier on stage. He had a Mason Boogie, 200 or 300 watt. Because when I'd go out, he'd hand me his guitar. And it was so loud you couldn't get no holdover. It was like hit one note, and it was loud, but it wouldn't sustain. So it was a trip, and gosh, let me try to think. Richard, we were out there doing it one night, and Richard's there was some kind of guitar that Gibson USA made for him. They didn't make very many. And I think Richard broke his headstock on it. They were doing something. He would always pick Fred up and carrying our drummer around, and it was wild, man. It was wild. But, we were going out every night and playing. I think finally the band, we were going out doing half the show at times with him, and I didn't know the songs. It was just a free-for-all. Later on, fast forward to 1990, here we are on tour with them, and we have to veer off to shoot a video for Oh Lonesome Me. I said, "Bud, do you think Hank would let me borrow that guitar to just, even though I played a Strat of the video, I wanted to play that Les Paul, I just wanted to have it in the video." And Bud went and talked to Merle Kilgore and Hank, and they said, "Yeah, take it." Because they knew we were going to be away from each other for a little bit. So they knew I was going to have the guitar for a while, but Hank didn't seem to really didn't care. I took the guitar, shot the video, but what happened, I plugged that guitar into a Marshall on a gig, and I go, "Oh my God, my new ones just don't sound like this. It's just got this mellowness to it. It's a mellow thing, It's just the feel of it." And I thought, "Oh God, I'll never find one like this." So I ended up having a guitar this is what I can't, it was either his birthday bash at Starwood. I think it was 91. I think we played with him in 91 again. And I had the guitar. At that point, I'd had the guitar about a year. And I said, "But I got to take this back to him." So me and our manager, at the time, Mitchell Fox. We go on Hank's bus with the guitar. And of course, Hank's having a big old time. It's his birthday, you know. And I said, well, Hank, I need to bring your guitar back to you. He said, well, you should have surely be able to afford one of those now. I couldn't afford them. I mean, but by then, well, they're about 40, 50 grand or whatever, you know, and it's out of my reach. And for some reason, he just said, keep it. He said, keep it. And I took it. I went off the bus. And another fellow that was on the bus, I can't think of his name right now. It'll come to me later. He said, I came back on and said, are you sure? He said, keep it. And I've had that guitar ever since. And Hank saw me. I think we saw Hank sometime in the late 90s, somewhere, early 2000s. He said, I hear you still playing it. Les Paul. I said, yeah, Hank, I love that guitar, you know. And I've kept it, you know. I've had people try to buy it. And I go, no, it's not for sale. It's not for sale. It's a great gift because when I was a kid, in my mind, I wanted a 58 Les Paul. I didn't want a 59 or a 60. Or 57. And 58s are really not the most desirable year. They're not the flamed out year, but it's in my mind, that's what I wanted. And it was just through Hank, I was able to get that. And it's a beautiful guitar. I don't take it on the road just because I know the crew gets real nervous about it. And if I do play it out, I have somebody with me because I don't even trust myself standing with it anymore. At 70, you know, I'm a little, not that I'm falling all over the stage or anything like that, but I just nervous too, you know. It's a beautiful story.
Who have you loaned it to, or who has played it since you've had it?
Charlie Starr with Blackberry Smoke, Warren Haynes. Joe Bonamassa has played it. Joe has. Joe, here's the deal. I have this side band called Rufus Huff, which is just a reason to get together with 2 or 3 Marshalls and play blatantly loud as we can. And it's not anything about taste. It's just about going back to 1972, drinking it up. And we opened up for Joe. Oh, I don't know what year it was. This is before Joe was playing Exit In. We played with him one night at Jim Porter's in Louisville, and the next night we played with him at Exit In. And I was playing my 58 into a Marshall, and he just loved it. He loved it. I remember me and Joe sitting out at Exit In one afternoon. He was changing strings on a Fender he had, and I had my. He didn't even have old guitars at the time. He may have had a couple back home, but man, 2 years later, that boy he was going up the chain, man. You know, he's got plenty of bursts now. He named it Hank the Plank.
That's how the name came about?
Joe called it Hank the Plank. Yeah. Well, no neck break, thank God. There's never been a neck break. Tuners have been changed. It's like if you have an old 30s car, you'd have to change the tires, right? And it's been refretted. It's got the beautiful Brazilian rosewood neck, 2 PAF pickups. They're black bobbin pickups. Not anything special. A lot of people want the double cream or the zebras, but they all sound the same. Everything pretty much except for that. That's not original. I know the burst police out there are going to look and go, oh, yeah, it's not right for a 58. Well, what it was, the old Tune-O-Matic, the old ABR1 is at home, put up with the keys. And most people know the 58, there was no retaining wire for the saddles. So if you broke a string, your saddle would go falling off on the stage. And you'd be lucky to find it, or it'd be somebody handed it back to you. So I ended up taking this little deal. Well, you know what? This one don't look like it's got a retaining wire either. This is not even, to be honest with you, I've had this changed. Sherman Stockton from Stockton Custom Shop, Newcastle, Indiana, put this Tune-O-Matic on. Do you know Sherman? Yeah, you should know Sherman. This is different, so these are really tight. But I did have a 60, like a 63 in here for a while with a retaining wire. But everything's original. I mean, it's been beat up, and Ed King owned it. What we determined, we think a gospel group owned the guitar first, then Ed King ended up getting the guitar. This is after Skinnerd. He already had Red Eye, so he didn't need it. So he took it to George Gruins and sold it. That's when Hank bought it. And Hank, I think Hank told me on the bus when he pretty much gifted the guitar to me, he said, "You know the Gold Top's better, don't you?" I went, "You're right, Hank." And it was for Hank, but this is right for me. And I love his guitar. It's just you plug it into a Marshall. It's like oh gosh, everybody's going to have their own thing, but man, if you want to go back to that early ZZ Top's first album, that type of thing, it's got that tone. But that's pretty much it. I'll show you. I'll take this off because now I probably won't get this back on. But look, this is what the color used to be like. Oh. Used to be red. It used to be red sunburst, but it's turned into just a lemon burst. So it's the same way under this pickguard as well.
So the patina is completely natural. It's never been refinished.
No refinish at all. No. Nothing. No, I can't get this back. Well, I'll get it back on later.
I think it's absolutely beautiful.
This is exactly what I wanted when I was a kid. I just didn't, I would start seeing pictures of Jimmy Page, Joe Walsh, Billy Gibbons, Ronnie Montrose, the Allman Brothers. They're playing these bursts. I never noticed the burst thing, the stripes and the curl and all that stuff. I never really paid any attention to that. It was just a faded burst, That's what I liked, and that's what I wanted. So, well, I'm hanging with those today here at WDNS in Bowling Green. There's no amplifier here. But what we're going to do, I'm going to invite him to my house, maybe early next year if you got time. And we got plenty of Marshalls. We've got Magnetones. We've got Germino. We have car amps. We've got Fenders. We've got Fuchs. We'll plug it in. What we'll do is we'll plug it into a Marshall 100-watt head, and we'll crank it all the way up, and we'll make the neighborhood go berserk. There's coyotes out back. They don't stand a chance. Okay, we got a date on that, right?
That's a deal.
Okay. Now, this right here, maybe there's somebody out there in Burstland or somewhere. This is the old Lipton case, of course. I don't know what that stands for. If it was a gospel group, could that be something pertaining to Jesus? I'm not sure. So if somebody knows who used to own this guitar, I'd like to know history on it before Ed King. So that's what I'm looking for. I believe it came out of Ohio. We think it belonged to a gospel group, and this is probably pertaining to something like that. And it did, when I first got the guitar, on the back, it had a leather Ruger emblem. It finally fell off, and it's home in a box somewhere. It was Hank's, which was smart because it kept the thing from getting scratched. Yeah. But the first time Ed saw this guitar, here's another little crazy story. Ed King. I went out and filled in for Ed King back in '92, so we become pretty good buddies. And I actually had an offer to join Skinnerd at one point, which I had my own band, and I can't learn Skinnerd songs. I'm not that smart. I can barely do Headhunter songs, But it was a great honor. But so Ed, first time he sees this guitar after he hasn't seen it in years, he said, "God, you played that guitar." When I had it, it wasn't that beat up, But that's the beauty of it. Was it Eric Clapton says he always gravitated to guitars that look beat up. It's like going to a restaurant where there's lots of cars. The food's good. If you see a guitar that's beat up, the guitar's got to be something to it, right? Got to make you want to play it. That's what the beauty of the guitar is it draws you in. It makes you want to play the thing, And I've got an old 57 Strat same way. So when you come up to the house, we'll pull that out. We've got a couple of old 335s and a couple of old Martins. We'll have some fun.
It's a date.
All right, and we want everybody to show up too. We might have some barbecue after that too. So we're inviting everybody to the barbecue brunch.
Beautiful.